Thought I would do a video on putting together the Vulcan Welding Cart. Just picked up one of these, and I don't know if you're like me. Most of the time I just look at the picture and put it together and glance at the instructions, but this time I thought I would take the time, go through it methodically, slowly, and read everything, because this is a really important piece of equipment when you think about it. You know, your welder is going to be sitting on this thing, and you're going to have a tank on there too, you know, with flammable gases, and you know, and it's going to be carrying a lot of weight. So I thought it would be good just to take my time, read through it. And for those of you who don't like to read, you know, and you like to listen, then maybe this will help. Okay, so just starting off, they have some pretty good information in the very beginning, and honestly, this is the stuff that I never read, so I'll read it for you. Assembly precautions. Number 1, assemble only according to these instructions. Improper assembly can create hazards. Keep assembly area clean and well lit. That makes sense. Keep bystanders out of the area during assembly. Do not assemble when tired or when under the influence of alcohol, drugs, and medication. Weight capacity and other product capabilities apply to properly and completely assembled product only. Use precautions. This product is not a toy. Do not allow children to play with or near this item. Number 2, use as intended only. Number 3, inspect before every use. Do not use if parts are loose or damaged. Number 4, do not exceed listed weight capacity for individual components. Evenly distributed from bottom up or overall combined weight capacity of 350 pounds. In bold, it says, be aware of dynamic loading. Sudden load movement may briefly create excess load, causing product failure. Number 5, maintain product labels and nameplates. These carry important safety information. If unreadable or missing, contact Harbor Freight Tools for a replacement. Number 6, operate and store the cart on a flat, dry, level surface. 7, read welding equipment manual before use. Number 8, if using gas cylinders, be especially careful to prevent tipping or damage to the cylinders. Follow gas cylinder suppliers and gas supplier safety instructions at all times. And finally, people with pacemakers should consult their physician before use. Electromagnetic fields in close proximity to heart pacemaker could cause pacemaker interference or pacemaker failure. That is something I never would have imagined. So basically, this is what they give as a overall schematic or diagram of what it's, which looks just like the box. There's not too many parts. What I like is they have a little thing called setup, and they recommend that you get the various parts into little piles, you know, to just help make it easier to know which nuts and bolts go with what, and yeah, and that does help. I know that's what I did, and I'll go over that in just a second. Okay, so these are all the parts. Okay. So start over here. This is going to be our nuts and bolt kit. Various sizes. It's all metric, and we have the 1, 2, 3, 4 different size of bolts. Lock washer, flat washer, and some other little parts in here. And you're gonna have your hooks. You have 2 types of hooks. They call a hook A, hook B, your chain. Not sure what that thing's called. Some kind of a little tray. The wheels, that's the thing that holds the gas cylinder. The big wheels for the cart. That's the axle. And then over here, you're gonna have your other frames. your upper platform, lower platform over there. They call this the end frame, and the left and right. So the first thing we want to do is attach the lower platform, which is this guy right here. Doesn't have any openings or anything on it, so it's easy to tell. Attach that to the left side frame and the right side frame. So go like that. Okay. The opposite side. So one side you have to have for the rear axle for your wheels. That goes like that. That goes around like that. Okay. And then you're going to need 2 bolts. It's second to the smallest size. I think these are, what size are these? They call them bolt number 4, and bolt number 4 is an M6 by 30 millimeter. So lock washer first, then your flat washer. It's important that you do this the right way, like they recommend, because it's important that this thing stays rigid, because if you don't do it right, you don't connect the connections correctly, it'll get wobbly and it'll be unsafe. And then using a number 10 metric socket, do most of it by finger. I kind of do everything just snug and then go back at the end and then tighten them up tighter. And your other one, again, lock washer first, flat washer second. Line up the holes, finger tighten. All right, now snug. It's time for the upper platform. It says upper platform, attach upper platform to side frames using 4 bolts, bolts number 28. And that's going to be the 35 millimeter. They are the second to the largest bolt that's in the bolt kit. And four of these bolts, flat washers and spring washers. Another important thing to remember is, what I always try to do is when you're building stuff like this, it always helps if you keep the orientation of the whatever it is you're building in the same direction as what's shown in here in the instructions. That way you don't get things backwards or upside down and stuff. Because it's real important, because this is at a slight angle, so you want to make sure that you're going the right way. Otherwise, I mean, you'll figure it out sooner or later, because the holes won't line up. So again, you got your 35 millimeter lock washer first, or spring washer, whatever you want to call it. And then your flat washer. Finger tighten. Helps if you get it lined up. A little stubborn. Finger tighten, not too tight. Spring washer, flat washer, and with the other side. You can tell if you don't get the alignment just right, it won't thread on. You got it because you know your nut on the other side is welded in. So if you don't get the right alignment in there, it's not going to go. So it's just take your time, be patient, and just keep looking down and making sure everything is still lined up. Now for this, I'm just because I'm on a camera here, I'm going to flip it around so I can stay in view. When I'm done, I'll flip it back around again. So again, I like to keep everything in the same direction as what I'm looking at. Now we do this side. A little easier, you can see straight down. You can see that nut down there. Try to keep it nice and be cognizant of what you're, bolting together and make sure you're keeping everything in alignment. Not too tight. Because the last thing you want to do is bolt something together that's out of alignment. Because then it won't function very well. But again, this thing is holding up to 350 pounds, so you have to make sure that it's done correctly. Because the last thing you want is just these guys coming loose. Nice and smooth. Okay. I'm gonna go ahead and lug them down. Not too tight. You don't want to. This is mild steel, so you can't get too carried away because you'll strip it out. Next, we have the swivel casters. We got 2 of those, and go ahead and screw those in on the bottom. Try to keep your frames lined up. Just pop those guys in there. Now, I just hand tighten these unless you got a really big pair of channel locks. You could tighten it with that, but I think finger tight is good enough. Wheels on. So just step back, take a look at everything, go back around, and make sure you're tight enough to where your lock washers are compressed. It's the benefit of the lock washer being compressed like that is it puts tension. You got compression and tension both going on at the same time. So that's what creates a a really good positive connection, what we call in structural engineering. We're going to put the two big wheels on. We've got 2 of those. You're going to need your axle. You're going to need the two spacers. Go on both ends of the axle. The biggest washers that are in there, and 2 of these things. They're called easy clips, and that's what's going to secure the wheels to the axle. So let's just go ahead and spin her around. Go ahead and put the axle through this hole right here. Goes in there pretty good. Okay, and the wheels. Looks like it doesn't matter which way it goes, so go ahead and slap that on there. Oh, wait a second. I gotta look at okay, first, before the wheel goes on, you gotta put the spacer. And you want the spacer with the hub, the larger part, inside. So that goes on first. And that's what's going to keep the wheel from rubbing up against the frame. And then put the wheel on there like so. Okay. And then you're going to do your flat washer. And then your little easy clip. And with that, I just use a pair of pliers. Boom. That one's on. Same thing on this side. Spacer. Put the wheel. Flat washer. Easy clip. You'll feel it when you squeeze it with the pliers. It's kind of a little tricky, but you'll know when it goes on. You'll feel that connection, that little pop. All right, so get it back to the correct orientation. This. So it looks like everything is connected, good. Everything looks level. Just a little overview here. Right. So here you can see what it looks like now. We got the upper frame, 2 wheels on the bottom. See, those are the welded on nuts that are kind of cool. You know, you can screw into those. You don't have to worry about connecting them from the other end. Same thing with these guys. You got your wheels there. So far, you know, it's a pretty straightforward process. I mean, this is seems like it's really put together well. The instructions are laid out extremely well. And now we're going on to attach the adjustable stop, and that's going to be this little bracket here. There's only one of them, and you're going to want to make sure that it's oriented in this direction. Oops, like that. So that it is facing the flats, the vertical part of it is going that way. Then you're going to have your two smallest, they're 10 millimeter bolts. and lock washers and flat washer. And the only two nuts that that the kit comes with are these two, and that goes to the slider here. So your bolts go from the bottom up. You're gonna do your spring washer. I'm sorry, your flat washer. Flat washer first, then your lock washer, spring washer, then your nut. Then just finger tighten for now. The other bolt, flat washer first, spring washer second, and then your nut. I just leave that loose for now. So next we have the toolbox shelf. That's this guy, and that is going to go right underneath, like so. It already has the nuts welded to the bottom here. So for this, you're going to use the remaining two 10 millimeter bolts that you have, and then again, lock washer, flat washer. This one, however, it's just a reverse of the sliding mechanism, where the bolts this time are going to go down from the top. So in this case, we're going to want to go bolt, spring washer, flat washer, attach. So spring washer, flat washer, line it up. A little tricky, but just be patient. Have your socket ready. The nice thing about all of this is that all of the bolts and nuts are all use the same socket. So don't get it too tight until you do the other side, because you want to make sure it's all lined up. So again, lock washer, flat washer, attach. You can feel it line up like that there. So now, looks like so they're good. So go ahead and, the instructions say go ahead and secure. So go ahead and tighten it really good. All right. Now it's going to be time to attach the end frame, or work on the end frame. That is, we're going to attach the cylinder rack, that thing on the top there, and then the two hooks that go on the side. These are going to be called hook B, to attach cylinder rack to end frame, using 3 bolts, the 28s. Those are going to be the 35 millimeter, I believe, and then attach the 2 hook B's to the end frame, and using the number 4 bolts. Those are the second to the smallest one, the 30 millimeter flat washers and spring washers. All right, so start with the cylinder holder. Use the 3. So spring washer, flat washer. Finger tight for now. Center one. Again, don't get too tight, but not too tight. You don't want to break that weld on the other side. All right, now the B hooks. You're gonna need 2 for each side. Those we go from the outside in, I think. So setting up like that. This one you're going to have a wrench. You won't be able to get a socket in there. This 10mm. There we go. Cables to hang on to. That side. Grab 2 number 4s. Washer, flat washer. So make sure you're square and lined up both sides. good. Nice and snug. Next, we're going to attach the remaining B hooks to the two handles, the left and right handle. And here, make sure, you got to make sure you got the right, you got a left and a right. You want to make sure you have your correct orientation here. So we're going to want to make sure, hold them together like that. And then you can figure out, yeah, this is your right, this is your left, because that remaining two B hooks that you have, one's going to have to go on the outside, and then there's your threads, your attached, or nuts, I mean, where you can thread your bolts onto. So, and you're going to be using your number 4 bolts, or the 30mm lock washer, flat washer. That guy up like that. It's a little awkward, but if you just work with it there and kind of get them lined up. You just hand thread it in there. Same thing with the other one. Use the wrench again. You hear the hawks in the background? Out there squawking. Time of day they're out hunting for food. You can see our pasture in the background out there. See, they're out there flying around. All right. That's pretty good. Tight, but not too tight. All right, that one. And here's your, it's gonna be our right side. Down the home stretch here. Got the end frame, and we're going to attach it. Attach the end frame to our upper and our lower panels. And we're going to use, this time, we're going to use the longest bolts that we have. These are the 50 millimeters. You need 4 of them. Lock washer, flat washer, like always. And set that guy on there. Do the 2 top ones first. Finger tight for now. Grab the 2 bottom ones. Back to our socket. Side over here. Kind of just have to feel it, you know, just last one's always the hardest. Lift it up a little bit and you can the last one was a little tricky. This is probably one of the main connections you want to make sure and get really good, because a lot of weight's going to be bearing on this thing. You gotta make sure you got a really good connection. The last thing you want is this thing getting loose and rattling around and all that. There we go. Next, I'm gonna put the, that's good. I'm gonna put the two end handles on. And for that, then notice I flipped it around. We're on the other end here now. And we're gonna be using the remaining 4 of our longest bolts. These are the 50 millimeters. You don't get any extra, so make sure you don't lose any. I think you might end up with some extra washers, but you don't end up with any extra bolts. So, go ahead and that. I have to admit, when you do go slower and take your time and read the instructions and match up all of the right parts, things seem to go a lot smoother. You don't get to the end and run out of the wrong size nuts and bolts because they got used in the wrong spot. I can see that happening with this one. That's why they recommend you start off putting things in piles and get an idea of what goes with what. That's that one. I'll do the right one. Washer, flat washer. Is tight enough. Not too tight, but tight enough. Just to where you can see that lock washer is flat. All right, okay, almost finished here. The last thing we have to do is attach the crossbar, and attached to the crossbar, this is the crossbar, has 2 pegs on the end. That's going to fit on the back side over here. I guess it could go on either side. They show it on the over there on the opposite side. So I think I'll just go ahead and do it like they have shown. And then your hook A, they call, is this guy, where it's both sides are pretty much the same height. That's going to attach like, yeah, underneath. So what you're going to do first is we're going to attach crossbar in there. And that just goes in like so. So yeah, you can pop that out and put it on the other side if you want. The only thing we have to attach is our handles. We're going to use our remaining bolt 28 Those are the M6x35s. Only got 2 left. That's it. And those going from the top. So it looks like that hole is centered, but the hole on here is offset. So we want to make sure we get that on the right and the right side. So you're going to want this to be further out. So make sure you have a little bit of space when you put this on there. You got a little bit of space because that's for your cables to hang in there. Yeah, from the top. That one. We have it. All right. And let's see. Last is install the toolbox and chains, slide toolbox and toolbox shelf, connect chains 10 on cylinder rack and other end of upper platform. Check and tighten all hardware after assembly. So you got 2 chains in that little toolbox. With your 6 or 7 washers you got extra. And that'll go, that's this guy. That goes in there. Our chain. We'll use for our tanks, which I have yet to get. This is the side of the tank that's on. There we go. So yes, your chain will just and there we have it. So, like they said, go through, check all your nuts, and make sure that everything is nice and secure. And so here it is. Good to go. The Vulcan little welding cart, and it wasn't too bad. It took about, I'd say about an hour. And it looks very sturdy to me. I thought the instructions were put together very well. The materials are They look good quality to me. So I can't really say, you know, that anything but good about putting this thing together. I think that if somebody just sits down and looks at the instructions, you just gotta, one thing, you gotta look at because the bolts, you got like 4 or 5 different sizes, and you gotta make sure you match those bolts up with the correct part, because if you don't, you're gonna end up with, because you don't get any extras. And if you get the wrong ones in the wrong spot, you're gonna come up short somewhere else and they won't work. So it behooves you, in my opinion, to just do like they recommend. Break all of your stuff out of the box, all of your parts, segregate them into the correct piles, match up your bolts, the correct sizes with what they should go with. It's all metric. So all you have to have as far as tools is a pair of pliers to attach the wheels for those easy clips, and then an open end and a socket 10 millimeter. If you happen to have a micrometer like I did, you can verify the size of the bolts that come in that little toolbox. Otherwise, they don't have anything on them, or that I could tell, that tells you one way or another which size is what. That's my only complaint, I would say, in packaging this thing, is make it a little easier to tell which size bolts are what. I mean, I can figure it out because I have the tools to do it, but it might be a little bit more difficult for other people. So let's go put the welder on her and see what it looks like. Well, there it is. Got the welder installed, and it fit like a glove. There's where that little slider mechanism is. It's really cool. I can see what it's used for. Your welder pushes back up against these tabs here in the rear, and then that slider that we installed, you just keep that loose and then just push it in, tighten those nuts, and then your welder is secure. It's not going anywhere. You got the little toolbox here. Cables, perfect spot, because with these portable welders, that's always a pain in the butt, is those cables. And now you got a place to put them. You got your welder nozzle. Like I said, I don't have the tank yet for my argon gas, but as soon as I do, that'll go there. Chains for it, and it moves around perfect. Feels sturdy. I could probably tighten those a little bit more. I can see it's still moving a little bit. I'll make that tighter connection. But yeah, this is perfect. I've been wanting something like this for a while, and I have to say that I was pretty impressed. Vulcan has a very nice product, and we'll see. Do another video in about a year and see how it went. The last thing in here is they just have a couple of things at the end that says, make sure the welder and all accessories combined do not exceed the weight capacity of this cart. Place gas cylinder on lower platform, then secure in place by locking the chains around the cylinder into the slots of the cylinder of the platform. Yeah, so you may want to take that into consideration about the weight. You know, 350 is your maximum, so you may want to, that may dictate how big of a cylinder you put on there. I can't remember the weights of those, but you want to know, obviously, the weight of your welder, your weight of your cylinder, and you know, you may not be able to get the big ones or something. I'm not going to get the biggest one they make. I'll probably get the smaller one. And then Loosen hardware on adjustable stop. Slide the adjustable stop up against the welder, then tighten hardware. Make sure everything is secure and the cart is well balanced before moving the cart. If welder is unstable or does not fit securely in the upper platform, do not use that welder with this cart, which makes total sense. Periodically, for maintenance, inspect general condition of cart, check for loose hardware, misalignment or binding of moving parts, caster swivel function and movement, cracked or broken parts, any other condition that may affect its safe operation. And lastly, wipe external surfaces of the cart with clean cloth. So that's pretty much it. Like I said, this is the first time I ever sat down and read through an instruction manual, and I'm glad I did, because there's a lot of things that I learned, and I think in the long run I'll be glad that I did. Well, there it is, finally complete. Installed my welder and got it all attached and everything, and it looks pretty good. I'd have to say, a very good quality, and I'm impressed. And the welder fit in there really well. One thing I would note, it's important that the welder is secure, and by doing that, when you set it in there, remember there's that slider was out here. Remember, we kept it loose, and so it was out of the way, and then you set your welder in, and you got these two back tabs back here, and that's going to catch the back of your welder. So you want to push it up against that. Ideally, as you can see, I didn't get it centered very good, but you got those grommet feet sticking down, and that's probably about where you want to get it. And then come back up to the front here, and you got to be careful. You got to get that slider, push that slider all the way underneath as far as it'll go, and get it under there, and then get yourself an open end 10 millimeter on the top, and then your 10 millimeter ratchet on the bottom, and tighten that as good as you can get. Now you got a nut and a bolt, so you can tighten that sucker as good as it'll go. You don't have to worry about pulling out a weld or something like that, like with the other ones where they were all set, the nuts were set in a weld, and if you're not careful, you over tighten, you can break those off. This one, you want to get it as tight as you can get, and that keeps this guy locked in there. So when you're moving it around, it's not moving, because you got a lot of inertia with a big mass like that on wheels. You're moving it around, it's going to want to go the opposite direction when you change direction. So there you go. That's the Vulcan welding cart, and I think it's going to work just fine. I'm very impressed, and we'll see how this goes, and maybe I'll do another video in a year or so, and update everyone on how it turned out. Still got to get my cylinder. I'm probably not going to get the large one. I'll probably get the one that's about half the size, and that'll cut down on the weight, because you don't want to go over the 350 pounds. So make sure you know what the weight of your welder is and the weight of your tank, and like they say in the manual, periodically go through and check your connections, make sure that they're remaining tight, and if you got some loose connections somewhere, it could be because you over tightened, you broke one of those nut welds off or something. But as I'm seeing this now, granted there's not a tank on it, but it's solid. I mean, it's not rattling around or nothing, I mean it's not heavy duty, but I mean it's for the money, you know what I mean? I mean it's good enough for me. You know, I wouldn't be too rough with it, you know. I've seen a lot of homemade ones, and you know, they're built like Fort Knox, and you know, you could roll those things over anything and they'll hold up. But I mean, for this, all I'm going to be doing is rolling around here, you know, the driveway and stuff. I'm not going to be doing anything extravagant, so I think this is good for my use. All right, hope that helps. Bill the Engineer, out.